Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to start looking at Betrayers of Kamigawa, which is the second set in the original Kamigawa block, and we're going to start looking at Dark Devotion, which is a black and red deck. So let's look at the deck list here. So we have 25 creatures, we have 5 instants, 4 enchantments, 2 sorceries, 24 land, and a mana curve off to the side there. So let's look at these cards. So the theme in this deck is actually, spoiler, it's not well executed, but it's actually pretty cool, and I actually really liked it at the time. So in Kamigawa, you had demons in black, as they traditionally are, and you had ogres in red, which they traditionally are. But there was a lot of overlap between demons and ogres. It was really cool. This kind of like thematic linking that you had ogre cards that cared about demons, and you had demon cards that cared about ogres, and it was I liked it. It was pretty cool. This kind of like mid-range tribe of just kind of like fairly big creatures, and they sort of complemented each other. I quite liked it at the time, and this deck is, I think, meant to demonstrate those kind of synergies. Anyway. So one of the rares of the deck is Ukora, the Prisoner. This is kind of honestly a disappointing rare to start off with. So it's 4 mana for a 5/5, like no abilities. So it's just kind of like, I guess, efficiently costed. So when Ukora leaves the battlefield in any way, like dies or is bounced or anything, you have to sacrifice all your non-ogre creatures. Now you have got a lot of ogres in the deck, but yeah, you also have a few demons that you'd probably want to keep around. And like, a 5/5 is not invincible. I say he's got no other abilities, so he's just a big 5/5 beat stick. So very disappointing, honestly. Especially as a rare creature. Like, I'd accept that as kind of like an uncommon legend, but as is, yeah, not great in my opinion. I think Pain Macaroni, or as we used to call him back in the day, Pain Macaroni, is a lot better. Honestly, like, yeah, he's 1 extra mana, but like, at least he has like an evasion ability. He's got fear, which is okay. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice a creature if you don't control an ogre. So this is the point in Magic the Gathering's history where basically demons always have to have a drawback. And I get it; it's like thematic sense, but it's also, I guess it's true to the color pie as well, that you've got these cards which are quite powerful, but they need a maintenance cost to pay, because that's kind of what black did at the time. But yeah, this was okay. The pain wrecker only, it's okay. 5/4 for fear for 5 mana. 2 Scourge and Namai, so this 4 mana for a 4/4. So again, like, I mean, it barely passed the vanilla test, but at the time this would have been okay for black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life if you don't control an ogre. Again, like, fine, I guess. So Blood Speaker, I think, is one of the better cards in the deck. So 4 mana for a 3/2 Ogre Shaman. At the beginning of upkeep, you can sacrifice it, and if you do, set your library for a demon card, and then put it into your hand, then shuffle, and then whenever a demon comes into play under your control, you get Blood Speaker back from your graveyard back to your hand. So it's this kind of like recurring like tutor effect, which is actually, I don't think that's actually too terrible. To pay essentially 4 mana sorcery speed, get a demon from your library into your hand. The downside is there's actually not that many demons in the deck. I think this is it, these 5. So that's if you were playing this deck out of the box, you'd probably feel like your options are limited, and like if you were expanding on the deck, like adding your own cards, that's definitely the first thing you would do, I think, is add more demons to it. So then we have a bunch of other ogres here. So we have a single bloodthirsty ogre, 3 mana for a 3/1. Tap, put a devotion counter on it. Tap, target creature gets -X/-X land turn, where X is the number of devotion counters on him, but activate the ability only if you control a demon. Yeah, fine, I guess. At the very least, he's a 3/1 for 3, which is, like, it's not wonderful, but at least he does that. Yeah, and like that ability is actually pretty good. The fact it only requires tapping. I say it's just reliant on having a demon out, and you can't reliably get a demon out in this deck. I mean, you've got 1 Blood Speaker to try and get one of your demons out, one of your 5 demons. Three Takenuma Bleeders, so 3 mana for a 3/3, which at the time would have been good for black, but when it attacks or blocks, you lose a life if you don't control a demon. Yep, it's sort of similar sort of thing, like you have the drawback if you don't have a particular card type. Three Villainous Ogres, 3 mana for a 3/2, can't block. If you have a demon, it has regenerate for a single black, which is pretty good. Yeah, it's alright. The thing I don't mind is that like it's not, and I could see it could have been this way. It's not like costed, assuming you're always going to have that ability. Like a 3/2 for 3 that can't block is at the time that's okay for black. If it was like, I don't know, like an extra like 1 or 2 mana, like assuming it's always going to have regeneration, then yeah, I'm glad it didn't go that way. Death Cursed Ogre though, this is pretty awful. So 6 mana for 3/3. When it dies, everyone loses 3 life. Yeah, yeah, that definitely could have been cheaper, I think. Yeah, not great, not a great card. And then we have some red ogres, which is the color we normally associate with ogres. So we have 2 frost ogres. It's just a 5/3 for 5. Yeah, just very boring, isn't it? Shinka Gatekeeper, which is like aggressively bad, I would say. So 3 mana for 3/2. Whenever it's dealt damage, it also deals that much damage to you. So this is actually dreadful. Like this is actually dreadful. Like I can't imagine why this ability even like why it's printed this way. If it was like like it had the retaliation ability, like like Mog Maniac or something, where when it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage back to say another creature. So that would make sense. It's like it's meant to be. It's a gatekeeper. It's like meant to be a guard, so it would like fend off people, I suppose. Or if it had like defender and like slightly better stats. But as it exists, this is legitimately an awful card. So moving on, we have Sokanzan Bruiser, 5 mana for a 3/3 Mountain Walk. Again, just kind of boring. It's fine, I guess. So the other rare of the deck, who's pretty interesting, is Heartless Hidetsugu, who is 5 mana for a 4/3. Tap, he deals to each player damage equal to half their life rounded down. So I really like Heartless Hidetsugu. He's pretty great. Yeah, and that ability is obviously very good. The fact it only requires a tap, it doesn't require any mana investment. Yeah, obviously it affects you as well. But yeah, it's pretty good. And it's the thing is it's damage as well, it's not life loss. So if you if you gave him lifelink or spirit link, then you're actually kind of laughing with this. But yeah, Heartless Hidetsugu is okay in my books. He's a good rare to have in this deck, I think. And then the last ogre is one of these flip cards. So these are, before double face cards, we had these. So you would play this for 4 mana as Initiate of Blood, who's a 2/2. He has the ability where he taps to do 1 damage to a target creature that has been already dealt damage this turn. And if it dies this turn, he flips, and he flips into Goka the Unjust, who's a 4/4, and has tap, does 4 damage to a creature that was dealt damage this turn. So he just essentially just upgrades his ability. But yeah, I think this is basically fine, I think. And then I think this is just to fill out space and honestly give the deck some cheap creature cards. Because obviously everything is like pretty expensive. 2 Bile-Urchins, 1 black mana, 1/1, sacrifice it, target player loses a life, fine. And 3 Hearth Kamis, which are basically just 2 mana for a 2/1, but X, sacrifice it, destroy an artifact with mana value X. Like, fine. These are honestly just here just to fill space, I think. And then some auras. So we have a single Kumano's Blessing, 3 mana with flash. If a creature dealt damage by enchanted creature this turn will be put into a graveyard, it is exiled instead. That is very expensive and just very like kind of niche and like just not great, honestly. Like it doesn't even give like a power toughness boost. It doesn't let you draw a card. It does nothing. It just gives you this kind of the effect we saw like in the Spirit Bane deck. Yeah, it's just not wonderful at all. It's just like it just feels like a very weak card, which is unfortunately it's kind of the thing that just happens in Kamigawa block. Just a lot of these cards are just kind of very weak or overcosted, or yeah. Mark of the Oni is okay though. So 3 mana, you control enchanted creature, so it's like quite a cheap mind control effect. But you, if you have no demons, you have to sacrifice Mark of the Oni at end of turn. The fact that it's end of turn is okay because like you could still do this, I guess, before you attack. To control the enchanted creature, at least get it out of the way. so it can't block, and then end of turn, whatever you sacrifice, mark the Oni. That's like not an ideal use for it, but like it is a possibility. And then 2 Oni possessions, 3 mana to give the enchanted creature +3/+3 and trample, turns it into a demon spirit, which is good because then you can use this to turn your ogres into demons as well, to kind of get all their benefits. But at the beginning of upkeep, you have to sacrifice a creature, and this is like not a deck that's like, it doesn't have a way of like producing kind of expendable creatures. Yeah, so not sure how useful it would really be in reality. And then just close out with just a few spells. So 2 Call for Bloods. Oh god, this is so expensive again. So 5 mana for an arcane instant. As an additional cost to cast it, you have to sacrifice a creature, and a target creature gets -X/-X till end turn, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So, like, for 5 mana, and you have to sacrifice a creature to give -X/-X. So, like, this is super overcosted. This could have been like, I don't know, 2 mana and sacrifice a creature. That I think would have been fine. Because you're already sacrificing creature, already giving up resources to to do a removal spell. I mean, like I say, it's not fair, I think, to compare this to like Last Gasp from Ravnica, but like that's the next set, and Last Gasp is 2 mana to give -3/-3, like no strings attached. So by comparison, I think this is super overcosted. 2 Swallowing Plague is just an X spell, does X damage to a creature and you gain X life. Fine. Overblaze is kind of fun. So this is like essentially like a Furnace of Wrath for a single thing for a single turn. So 4 mana instant arcane. Each time target permanent would deal damage to a creature or player this turn, it deals double that damage to that creature or player instead. So, I mean, on Heartless Hidetsugu, this is just everyone loses, which is could be really fun. It has Splice onto Arcane, which means if you play an arcane spell, you can reveal this from your hand, play the splice cost, and you add its text onto the spell you've already cast. The thing is, like, you don't have too many arcane spells in it. I think this is it. These like 7 cards here. So again, not maybe too many opportunities to splice it. And then 2 Torrent of Stone, 4 mana, arcane instant, does 4 damage to a creature. Again, I think kind of overcosted, but basically fine. It also has Splice onto Arcane, where you can sacrifice 2 mountains. So if you really wanted to get an extra 4 damage into something, you could Stone Rain yourself twice. I always think sacrificing land is always such a huge gamble to take, personally, especially in a deck where like a lot of the stuff is very expensive. Like it's got quite a high mana curve, so I don't know if you'd really want to be sacrificing your land, really, when you've got no other ways of generating mana. So what could have been, I think there's a lot of improvements that could have been done in this deck, and it just really confused me why a lot of these cards weren't included. So Flames the Blood Hand is this pretty good burn spell, I think. So it's 3 mana instant, does 4 damage to a player, and the damage can't be prevented, and the opponent can't gain any more life that turn, which is, I think that's pretty strong. Horrorby's Whisper is basically like a creature destruction spell. It has Splice, fine. Ogre Marauder is a 3/1 for 3, and it has like this ability where it can't be blocked unless the opponent sacrifices a creature, which is, I think that's pretty good. The fact he's not reliant on demons to get his effect. I'm sorry the text is hidden, but trust me, that's what it says. The other Oni, Gut Wrencher Oni, who's a 5/4 trample. And the drawback is if you don't have an ogre, you have to discard a card, whatever. Rend Flesh, again, really surprised why Rend Flesh just isn't in this deck. It fits so well. It's a perfectly good removal spell, like 3 mana just to kill a non-spirit creature. Blood Rites I thought could go in here as well. 5 mana for an enchantment, you sacrifice a creature and does 2 damage to a creature or player. Yeah, fine. And the alternate rest of Yukora the Prisoner. Kyoki, Santi's Eclipse. I think this guy would have been absolutely perfect. So 6 mana for a 6/4. Like, no abilities, but whenever you play a Spirit or Arcane spell, which there's a fair number, because all the demons are spirits as well, an opponent exiles a card from their hand, which is, like, that's pretty mean. So yeah, I feel like Kyoki definitely could have been in the deck. So in summary, this is actually quite disappointing. I don't think it's been put together too well, honestly, but I don't know how much of that is because the card selection isn't great, or just, like, I don't know, Kamigawa just didn't have really enough cards to, like, properly support this archetype. I don't know. It's a little disappointing. I did have this deck, and I think I played it once out of the box, and it was, you know, like a really disappointing experience. So I then just kind of dismantled it, made it, you know, I think I just went mono black in the end with it, just to have all the black ogres and black demons. I don't know. But yeah, what are your thoughts after seeing the deck? Did you also have this deck, and did you make any changes to it? What was your experience with it? What are your thoughts on it after seeing it? Put a comment below. I'd really like to hear what people have to say. But I'll be back next time to look at the deck that kind of really inspired me to do this whole video project. So we'll look forward to that next time. But until then, thank you for watching and listening, and have a good day.